We are back here on the Analytical Iowan podcast. It is Thursday, June 4th, and we've got a lot to talk about because there's always a lot to talk about. And I've said it before, I'm going to thank you guys for sticking with me and the new people that are coming on board. Noticed we've been picking up a few people here and there. So thank you to all the new subscribers and for sticking it out through the um, technical side of things as I'm fighting uh, some other issues as well as just a very, very rough um, work schedule. It's bad. I won't get into it right now, but that's the downside of having to work for somebody else. And eventually would like to make it so that this is what I do full time. Now, obviously, being from Iowa, that would make, doing, say, what Aaron Parnas does a little more difficult because he's got the ins, he's in DC, where he can report on things as they break. I've got to wait for other people to break them and give you my analysis. But still, would love to make this what I do permanently. So appreciate you guys sticking through it. I'm going to keep putting out and recording content, even if um, all I get a chance to do is get it recorded. And if the technology on the back end gets it screwed up, well, I'm going to do my best to try to get that straight away. Um, haven't quite figured out. I know one of the things that's going on with the back end of it, not to dwell on it too far, but you may have noticed over on YouTube that the podcast is up 3 times. Now, two of it is on purpose. I think it's the audio from Spotify when that goes up. That's intentional. But I haven't figured out what I'm doing wrong with my automation side of it. That the automation for every single episode pulls it twice. They haven't been able to figure out what I'm doing. It only ends up once in the folder it's pulling. It's supposed to pull the video from, but yet the automation side is putting it up twice. So working on trying to keep that from happening. If I happen to be sitting here and fighting them through on that back end, then sometimes I can stop that second upload. But just a couple of the small things I've got going on the back end of it. Um, Now we got a lot to talk about because there's always a lot to talk about. Donald Trump is uh, losing. He might think he's winning, but he's not. He's losing. Even when his preferred candidates are actively winning right now in the primaries, it doesn't mean he is actively winning. Look at what happened here in Iowa. We talked about it a lot yesterday on the show. Um, his hand-picked candidate for Iowa governor, his endorsed candidate, lost to somebody, Zach Lane. I guess I've been pronouncing it wrong. Um, Either way, Zach Lane. He's not an Iowan. He is a Kansan effectively. Spends most of his time in Kansas. Takes a private plane back to Kansas. He's got Republican corporate billionaire money. He's billionaire backed. Is the one who beat Randy Feenstra, who is Donald Trump's handpicked candidate. Now, neither one is a good choice. Neither one is what Iowa needs from a governor. But the whole thing here is that um, Donald Trump didn't get his handpicked candidate. And even when his handpicked candidates come through, that does not mean that he is automatically just going to win all the time. That's part of the thing here. For example, we've talked about it before. Now that he is causing some of these people to end up not have their seats at the end of this Congress, they have nothing to end up uh, holding them to anything. They can vote however they feel. They don't have to answer to voters. They don't have to answer to Donald Trump. And one of the things we just saw, and when I say Donald Trump is losing, it just happened yesterday. the U.S. House of Representatives did pass a war powers resolution. The tally for this war powers resolution was 215 to 208 for Republicans. Thomas Massie, who lost his seat um, because of Donald Trump and his push to redistrict. Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, Tom Barrett of Michigan, and Warren Davidson of Ohio joined every Democrat in supporting the measure. Now, what does this mean? Okay, this war powers resolution. Well, this would give Donald Trump, I think it's either 30 or 60 days to end hostilities in Iran. I believe completely. I think it's 30 days. Let's see. Does this give me anything more? This was from the live updates on the Hill. Um, no, no, here it is. Let's see. Read more. Here we go. So this, uh, granted, this is largely symbolic because it would still have to pass the House. Does this say anything about no, it does not. Okay. But effectively, they would have to oh, here it is. 60 days to close it, 30 a possible 30-day extension. Wait, that was the original. This would require him. Okay, here we go. It directs Trump to remove all forces from hostilities with Tehran unless explicitly authorized by a declaration of war or a specific congressional authorization for use of military force against Iran. Now, supposedly, this is a concurrent resolution, which there is some question as to whether or not that is even allowed because it is one of the ones that does not require Donald Trump's signature. Now, concurrent resolutions have been challenged before about being legal. Let's see what I can find here. Um, so concurrent resolutions, this is what AI is kicked back. And I know AI is highly divisive, but for general quick research purposes, it's about as effective as asking, uh, like your Google Home or your Alexa assistant, something like that. I'm not asking it to give me a full deep dive because I know there are lots of issues with AI. It is nowhere nearly as close to intelligence as what they would want us to believe. And it is nowhere, should not be nearly as close to replacing jobs and people as certain companies would want us to believe. I mean, within my dealings with it, I've seen tons of issues. If once you get past like an initial quick research question and you start asking it more complex things, it does not come back either with a good answer or sometimes even an answer. It just comes back with uh, a mess. Like, uh, was asking it something the other day, and it didn't even take into account the time of day I was talking to it at. Because I was asking it a question about what was going on right now, and it gave me an answer for like uh 4 hour or 12 hours previously, something like that. It was really bad, like because it didn't even reference a current clock or anything. But anyway, here's what AI says about um, the concurrent resolutions. Concurrent resolutions are legislative measures passed by both houses of Congress. They do not require the president's approval, but do not have the force of law. Typically used for things like adjournment dates, etc. They can express sentiments or opinions of Congress on issues. Uh, Now, this says it is not binding. Um, see what else it says here if I ask about the War Powers Act. Um, yeah, it's been debated because they lack legal authority. Um, Courts are reluctant to intervene on disputes over war powers, saying there are political questions. Um, so Donald Trump is not. If this passes the Senate, he may not be fully required to follow it. Now, could Donald Trump actually sign it and put it into law? I believe so. Now, would he? That is a good question. And the reason I think he might is he's been looking for an off ramp when it comes to uh, the um, uh, the Iran conflict. He has been looking for a way to get out of it. Iran isn't negotiating. Iran has said previously they don't entirely. Um, uh, Sorry about that. Dog was starting to whine. Decided to deal with that for a minute. But he's been looking for an off ramp when it comes to the Iran conflict. And Iran's not wanting to negotiate. They say things like, you know, no deal, or they basically are backing Donald Trump into a corner. Uh, they wanted to only sign a peace deal if it included Israel stopping to bomb and attack Lebanon, and that's not happening, right? And Donald Trump can't control Bibi Netanyahu, despite what he thinks he has for influence. Netanyahu is actively just doing what he wants, um, and Donald Trump be damned. So um, he's looking for an off ramp. He could end up signing this concurrent resolution, or he could end up following it regardless, just because he wants an off ramp and he wants a way out of the Iran conflict. And he can say, well, see, oh, those damn evil Democrats and those rhinos, they pushed me into it. And they said, I can't do it anymore. I can't prevent Iran from having a nuclear weapon. And he could potentially try to campaign on it through the midterms, although based on his current fitness levels, I don't think he is very fit to actively do much in the way of campaigning. I mean, he is struggling to stay awake. Um, he is having problems. He just disappeared for about 8 days. Um, and it is not uh, sustainable at this point. So he's got so many issues. I don't know that he can actively continue to campaign well enough. And if he has any political capital left to actively push the midterms through. Uh, now, yesterday he sidestepped the question while answering reporters in the Oval Office. This again comes from the Hill about his $1.776 billion slush fund for his supporters. He was asked whether it was dead or just on hold after acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, Donald Trump's former personal attorney, said there were no plans to move forward with it. Trump said, "It is I'd have to ask the lawyers. I don't know." Ever notice he never knows a lot? Every question, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. For somebody who claims to always be the smartest person in the room, he never knows anything. He said, quote, "What happened to great people, great American people, the way they were victimized, the way they were savaged. You have suicides, they killed themselves, they went bankrupt, they were weaponized by the Biden administration by a bunch of thugs, including Obama people, and like nobody's probably ever been. Except they weren't. They weren't." He has railed against the judge, calling the judge who ruled against his fund a radical left judge who ruled against it, and we'll see how that works out. Todd Blanche told lawmakers at a hearing on Tuesday that we are not moving forward with the fund, period. And that is because both Republicans in the House and the Senate are skeptical about it. When pressed if the fund idea was not going to move forward ever, Blanche said correct. Now, Democrats have pushed it back against it. Some Republicans are joining them. House Speaker Mike Johnson told reporters Tuesday that he had talked to Donald Trump and that the fund made it difficult for Republicans to get legislation through Congress. He said, I told him it was a difficult prospect right now given our vote tallies. Well, yeah, you guys don't even you barely have a majority, right? And that's not going to get any better. After the midterms, they're not going to have control of the House of Representatives. I would almost call it a guarantee, and I think they could take the House by 30 to 50 seats, and that's before you account for any of the gerrymandering. And it's entirely possible because of what they did in Texas, for example. They tried to eliminate 5 democratically held seats based on how people voted in 2024. Well, for example, the way I understand what I've seen from the polling and what other experts have talked about it, it looks like the Latinos in Texas who did break heavily for Donald Trump after seeing what has happened with ICE and immigration and Customs and Border Patrol are suddenly not anywhere near as willing to side with him. So some of those districts that they thought were Trump plus 10, 15 percentage points may only be Trump plus 5 before they started moving voters around to try to offset Democratic votes. They could end up losing the 5 they tried to get rid of and 5 potentially additional seats. Texas could flip, and that would be something to see. And it would be a direct result of Donald Trump pushing to gerrymander Texas. And, you know, it's because he is terrified of what will happen if he loses the House. He's terrified. He knows he's going to be investigated. He knows his people are going to be investigated. He is probably going to be actively impeached for a third time, if not a third, fourth, fifth, sixth time, however many times it takes. Now, again, that's assuming Donald Trump makes it into 2027. And he's not looking good. We've talked about his health. We've talked about the bruising, the puffiness, etc. And he's having more events here where he just seems out of it. Um, in fact, he's had some weird moments here lately, including here. Yesterday afternoon, he was signing executive orders. Uh, they came as his administration was promoting its work on the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool, which he says would be completed here uh, shortly. Um, he wrote on Truth Social yesterday, excitingly, the final coat of protection will be completed on the reflecting pool that sits between the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial at 4 p.m. today. The water will start flowing shortly thereafter, he wrote on Truth Social on Wednesday. The walking paths outside the pool will likewise be cleaned, sandblasted, and finished soon. The president added, "This will be the first time since the day it was built, 1922, that it has worked and worked wonderfully indeed." Donald J. Trump. What's he talking about? The reflecting pool has worked just fine the entirety of the time he has been, or it has been, around. There's been no issues. I don't know what he's talking about. But see, he comes out, he says these things on True Social, etc., and he thinks we know what he's talking about. Now, he might be talking about the fact they claimed they were trying to seal the leaks in the reflecting pool, except those weren't actual leaks. It's part of the water cycle. It seeps back into the ground, it turns into you know, groundwater, which goes into wells. It goes down river. It works its way through the ecosystem, and part of it goes away through evaporation. You're not going to be able to constantly keep the reflecting pool full without doing some kind of, addition to the water system. That's just how the whole cycle works. Now he's trying to make it more like a swimming pool. I think in part because he doesn't understand the different definitions for pool. In this case, it just means a body of water. But he thinks of pool, probably thinks of swimming pool, explains why he's trying to paint it the bottom blue like you would see at pools, things like that. Now it was talking about his swimming pool, and he brings out this chart. And this chart makes no sense. He is talking about the length of the reflecting pool and how big it is, right? And he's always been impressed with size. And I think there's a reason for that if you catch my drift. Um, you know, he was talking about when it comes to, um, like, I saw a thing about Trump Tower. And while he couldn't have the distinction of the tallest building, he found a way to make Trump Tower appear bigger by altering floor numbers and cutting out certain floors, etc., and saying, well, we have this many floors, and giving the top number, or our floors go up to whatever number he uses at the top. But if you actually go in and count, there's a lot of them that are skipped. I think like the Arboretum, they counted that as like 10 floors, but it doesn't take up 10 actual floors worth of space, things like that. And after 9/11, after the Twin Towers collapsed, he was talking about it, and he was being interviewed. And he made a comment that now he has the tallest buildings in New York. Like, we just watched the Twin Towers collapse, almost 3,000 people die. And he's talking about how now his building is such an impressive structure. It is ridiculous, but that's who he is. So he pulls this chart out comparing the length of the reflecting pool to various skyscrapers. Those things have nothing to do with each other. But he's acting like he designed the reflecting pool or that it was his, like he's talking like a businessman or a real estate guy, right? Like he's trying to pitch this project like, oh, well, look at how Look at how big it is. Look at what we're getting for our value. You were refurbishing the reflecting pool. And what was supposed to be like a couple $1 million project ballooned to 13. And I know the MAGAs are going to come out and they're going to go, well, what about Obama and what about this? They've always got a what about. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. We could literally come out and say that Donald Trump is the only president to have 3 wives, has been married 3 times, because I believe that is actually accurate. And they would come out with, well, what about Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky or something like that? Like they would try to come up with some way to do a what about somebody else just to deflect. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. But he comes out and he does it. It is so bizarre that of what he was talking about when it comes to the reflecting pool. Now we will have to see what it finally looks like when um, he ends up uh, opening it. He says it is uh, will be completed Wednesday afternoon, so it's probably going to be filling sometime today. Is there more here? Yeah, it was $13.1 million, uh, funded in part by the National Park Service's visitation fee at 80 parks nationwide. The renovation project has received pushback from the Cultural Landscape Foundation, a nonprofit whose founder, Charles Burnham, sued the administration, alleging the blue paint coating on the reflecting pool is altering its historic character without authority. See, Donald Trump doesn't care about the authority. However, Trump has defended the project as a needed update to the National Mall's 2,028-foot long reflecting pool, which was designed by architect Henry Beacon. An Interior Department spokesman said that there will now be a crew dedicated to maintaining the grounds. Now, it has undergone several renovations since it was opened, but still, he doesn't care about whether or not he needed any sort of correct authorization, proper authorization, anything like that. He decided they were going to do it, and they're going to do it. Now, what I want to know is how much money is it going to cost the next administration when this doesn't work or this looks like crap? How much are we going to have to spend a second time to go back through and fix all of this? He's making all of these changes, just like how much is it going to cost the next administration to rip out the cement patio around the or where the Rose Garden used to be? They were turning it into a tacky club look like Mar-a-Lago or Bedminster because Donald Trump feels more at home at places that look like that, and they're trying to deal with a dementia patient. So how much is it going to cost us to rip it all out and put it back? Same thing with the ballroom and everything else. Donald Trump doesn't care. It's all about what's convenient for him. And, while he does have the authority to make certain changes, and I don't even know if tearing out the Rose Garden qualifies under those rules, they are allowed to do some changes. Now, tearing down the entirety of the East Wing is contested, and we will have to see how court cases on that play out. Um, but they, again, I said before, Republicans always turn it back to a whataboutism, and they'll go back to Obama and Obama putting up a basketball court at the White House. But see what Barack Obama did, what President Obama did, was paint some lines on an already existing tennis court and bring in some portable hoops, which is almost the same thing you see done at uh, schools and playgrounds and parks, that they dual purpose some of the spaces so that it can be multi-purpose. You know, I've seen parks around me locally in places I've lived that had the option for on the same court basketball, tennis, and volleyball. In fact, all you had to do was like the poles and everything were there to raise the net between tennis and volleyball, took nothing extra. And instead of having a separate whole location for volleyball, there you go. The whole thing here is that's not comparable to anything Donald Trump is doing. But they want to find a way to make it seem like it's normal. Speaking of not normal, Trump says UFC arena outside White House could be permanent. Now, have you seen these things? They're building the stage and everything for this big UFC fighting event that is supposed to happen as part of the Freedom 250, the Donald Trump backed celebration of America's 250th birthday. They're putting up a UFC fight on the White House lawn. Now, this comes from The Hill. President Trump suggested on Wednesday that the UFC arena currently under construction on the White House South Lawn could be a permanent addition. In a video posted on his official TikTok account, Trump said, "I'm looking at it and maybe we'll never take it down." The president directed the installation of this structure to host a UFC fight on his birthday, June 14th. Again, it's not about the 250th birthday of the United States, it's about Donald Trump. The event is part of a series of scheduled celebrations marking America's 250th anniversary. Trump compared the structure to Paris's Eiffel Tower in his Tuesday video. Now, that iconic tower was intended to only be a temporary addition to the city for the 1889 World's Fair, according to Eiffel Tower's website. Trump said, quote, "And then they said, we sort of like it, let's leave it up a little longer. And then they said, let's leave it up longer and longer and longer," end quote. He is again trying to make comparisons that don't compare. What are we going to do with a UFC ring on the White House lawn? Now he says, quote, "Well, they never took it down, and we're building something in front of the White House that's quite attractive to a lot of people," end quote. What? There's not going to be as many people. I think when he finally sees the crowd that shows up, and it ends up being a very light crowd, and they don't get nearly as many people, and it doesn't turn out the profit that he thinks it's going to turn out. He is going to want to take it down. This is gonna probably be an embarrassment with him. Now, the president has a close relationship with UFC's president and CEO Dana White. He has attended several fights during his time in the White House. Donald Trump likes watching two dudes beat the hell out of each other. I mean, he's going to have multiple guys in multiple bouts fighting on the White House lawn for his amusement. That's a narcissist's dream. Now, the arena is supposed to be 4,500 seat capacity. They've been working on it since the end of last month. Trump told reporters that in April that an additional 50,000 to 100,000 people will be able to watch the fights on massive screens stationed at the Ellipse. That's just what I wanted to go do. I want to travel all the way to Washington, D.C. to go watch a fight on a Jumbotron. I'd have a better not that I'm going to watch this to begin with. It's not that I have anything necessarily to begin with against UFC or competitive fighting, but because of Donald Trump and everything else, I have no interest in watching this event. And the last thing I would want to do for any sporting event is go travel someplace, book airfare, hotel, have money for dining, all of those kind of things to go stand, I believe, because I don't even know if there's going to be seating set up at the ellipse or not, but either way, to go stand or sit or whatever at the ellipse and watch the fight on a jumbotron on a big screen. If I'm going to sit and watch it on a big screen, I'll sit on my couch. At least then I've got a comfortable seat and I've got the dog next to me. Well, it would be a way better time than all of that headache. But he thinks this is going to be some big draw. Now, he thinks they're going to be able to keep this up on the South Lawn. But again, this is where he doesn't care about anybody but himself. South Lawn is the site of the usual annual Easter egg roll. Donald Trump doesn't care. And the congressional picnic, again, doesn't care. Additionally, Marine One will transport the president to and from Joint Base Andrews from the South Lawn. Now, there's already talk about Donald Trump putting in a permanent cement pad on the South Lawn for Marine One. And that had its own problems when it came to uh, um, things. We don't know what that's going to look like. That has other issues um, attached to it. So uh, I don't know if the helicopter pad for Marine One will ever get actually be made permanent. But again, it's something else that the next president, well, next Democratic president, I don't know what advanced presidency uh, is going to do. Um, I think he's going to try to fix as much as he can, and he's going to be given marching orders by the Republican establishment to fix the image and the appearance of their party, because they are going to have to right the ship going into um, going into the 2028 election, and that's only if he becomes president, because Donald Trump doesn't make it. Now, uh, um, here we go. We're still dealing with the fallout from the primaries that happened Tuesday. They're still counting votes in California. President Trump on Wednesday congratulated Republican Steve Hilton for coming in first in the California gubernatorial primary, but they haven't called the race yet. Trump wrote on Truth Social, quote, "Congratulations to Steve Hilton on coming in first last night in the California vote for governor. If Californians are smart, which I know they are, they will put Steve into the governor's mansion and watch their state get better at a rate that has probably never been seen before." He says that about everything. Everything he says is always unprecedented, never been seen before, never been done before. It's a familiar refrain. The president added, quote, "I know Steve, he is a hard-driving winner, and he will turn California around quickly, and the federal government will be there with him to help," end quote. However, they're still counting. They have not declared anybody a winner. Now, Hilton is an advisor to former British Prime Minister David Cameron. He's a former Fox News host. Big surprise that Donald Trump would be backing a former Fox News host. Now, he currently leads the open primary with 27.76% of the vote as of Wednesday afternoon. But less than 57% of the vote has been counted. They have not called the race for the top two candidates at all. But this is where Donald Trump is going to push again for things like the SAVE Act, same day voting, having having all the votes counted by 11 p.m. Eastern. Hell, he has said in the past that he wants all votes counted by 11 p.m. Eastern on election day. when by 11 p.m. Eastern, the polls are still open in Hawaii, but he doesn't care about that. Democrats Xavier Becerra and Tom Steyer, the two remaining candidates with a chance to advance to the November general election, in addition to Hilton, they are sitting at 25.36 and 19.59% of the vote. Now, the top two finishers will advance to November. And all this comes from the Hill, former Representative Katie Porter, former Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villaragazo, and I apologize, I know I butchered that, and San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan were in the single digits, and they have already conceded. There's at least Decision Desk's HQ's Jeffrey Skelly wrote Wednesday that he expects California to tabulate more than 3 million additional votes, a process that could take days or even weeks. He noted, or quote, because many registered Democrats waited until the last minute to vote due to the volatile gubernatorial race, we expect the remaining votes to be somewhat more Democratic leaning. That could enable Becerra to pass Hilton and perhaps allow Steyer to also catch the leading Republican. But Hilton expressed confidence in Wednesday that he will advance to the general election. Hilton said in a video on Twitter, quote, stay tuned, good things are coming, we're still leading, it's looking good, end quote. The thing is, and I talked about this yesterday, when I looked yesterday, they had more outstanding votes than the entire state of Iowa has people. Counting all those votes takes time. They allow for mail-in votes to count up to so many days after election day, as long as they were postmarked before. All of those things happen. Okay? It's gonna take time. And the thing is, Republicans are going to try to tell you that there is some kind of nefariousness, some kind of cheating going on. It's not at all. It has, the whole thing here is Republicans are going to say it's nefarious or something like that. The other thing you're going to see, because we deal with this every election cycle in every blue state and in the national elections, is Republicans love to show you the map of the U.S. with counties filled in red that the Republican candidate for governor or president or whatever wins. And they show all of this, map of California. They'll show it and it'll look like 3/4 of California is Republican. Oh, yeah, California should be a Republican state. But then you look at where the people are. That's where everywhere where it's blue. Land does not vote. People vote. Just like here in Iowa, I've used Iowa as my benchmark because I'm an Iowan. We have, like the Des Moines Metro has more people than entire counties. So yeah, if Des Moines goes blue, and I'm sorry, if you take one of the counties, here, let me just pull it up real quick. All right, I found it real quick. So Polk County, which houses the Des Moines Metro, is sitting at 503,000 people. That's where the people are. And by comparison to California, I realize it is, uh, you know, way different demographics. But let's go down here to Adams County. Adams County, which is trying to remember. So Adams County, Southwest Iowa. Uh, biggest town is Corning. The entire population for the county, 3,600 people. Polk County, home of Des Moines, is 503,000. Not even 1% of the population difference. But on a map, they look about the same size. This is where Republicans get confused. You've got Adams County, which is, like I said, that is the smallest county in the state of Iowa. But they drop off rather quickly, okay? Using Iowa again. Uh, Lynn County, which is Cedar Rapids, 203,000. Scott County, which I believe Scott, Iowa City, maybe 174. Like it goes from 503 in Polk with Des Moines all the way down to 230, under half, and that's Lynn County. Once you don't even, you are under 100,000 population per county, mind you. Before you even get out of the top 10. Now there's 99 counties in Iowa, but still, when you are looking at populations split like that, it's easy for Republicans to get confused. They come out, they make it look all good, and they say, well, look at this map. Oh, it's so red. Like I said, Adams County, 3,600 people in the entire county. And then Polk County, home of the Des Moines Metro, 503,000. But on a map, they look about the same size if you're only going by land. Land does not vote. And Republicans want to conflate the two. All right. Yesterday, Secretary of State Marco Rubio was actually sitting before the House. I think on TikTok, I might have called him a senator, but I was wrong. It's Representative Ted Lieu. And it didn't sound right when I said it. But I also didn't catch myself. But Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Wednesday said he had never seen President Trump fall asleep during meetings. Appearing before the House Foreign Relations Committee, Rubio was asked by Ted Lieu of California, a Democrat, whether he'd ever seen Trump fall asleep during a cabinet meeting. Rubio told lawmakers, quote, "That's false. I've never seen him fall asleep. On the contrary, the guy doesn't sleep, which is a big problem because he calls me at 2 in the morning. He calls me at 5 in the morning, and I like to sleep a little bit, maybe not 12 hours, but at least 6, so he works. The other day, he was at the Oval Office at 12:30 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. I don't know what you're talking about," end quote. Except here's the thing. Yeah, he may be calling Marco Rubio at 2 and 5 in the morning. It's because he's awake because he's sundowning. Lieu accused Rubio of lying and then showed a clip of Trump with his eyes closed during a cabinet meeting. In a separate clip, Lieu showed a report from France 24 raising concerns about the president's health due to his behavior at a Memorial Day ceremony where the outlet reported Donald Trump's eyes appeared to be closed. Lieu suggested that Trump is frequently appearing weak to enemies when the cameras are rolling. Rubio said questions regarding Trump's cognitive ability are absurd. Rubio said, quote, "He works inhumane hours. I've been on foreign trips with the president that he doesn't sleep the whole flight, and everyone else is sleeping on the plane, wandering the hallways to look for someone to wake up and talk to. So I don't know what you're referring to, but he has an incredible amount of energy. I'm just telling you, you may not like his policies, you may not like his policies, you may not like the decisions he's made, but I assure you, this is not a president that sleeps or is cognitively impaired in any way, shape, or form. End quote. Sounds like it's like they're covering for him. It does. He's trying to make it sound good. When we are seeing Donald Trump actively fall asleep in these meetings, I mean, he leaned back, head back, you know, I mean, what's it going to take for them to admit he's asleep? Is it going to take him to start drooling or maybe start snoring? The dude's asleep. And the reason he can't sleep on the plane is because of the dementia, because of the sundowning. He should be sleeping on the plane. His natural uh, circadian rhythm, if he was healthy, really should have been enough to get him to go to sleep and say, hey, I need some rest. But his brain and his internal clock just can't let him. So he's up at all hours of the night. He's doing all of these things, and he is trying to convince us that he's healthy. Add that on to the fact that he is now bragging about taking a fourth cognitive test. Tells me they are very concerned about something. They're not telling him the whole story about his own health, and it's not going to get any better. It's going to continue to get worse, and they're going to continue to, uh, simp on him like this and cover for him as long as they think he has political capital to spend. And he only has political capital to spend up until the midterms, because once the midterms get here and he loses the House and the Senate, they're going to be looking to 28 and thinking about what their best option is to keep control of the presidency and regain control of Congress. And hooking their wagon to Donald Trump is not going to be that play. He might be winning a lot of these races as far as getting his preferred candidates over the line when it comes to the primaries. Winning the general election is going to be another thing entirely. And for those that worried they wouldn't be spending all of this money on these primaries and fighting like hell to do all the things they're doing, because Donald Trump is not going to be able to just cancel the election. It's not going to happen. There's no mechanism in our Constitution that allows for the continuation of Congress should there be no election. Um, you're worrying about nothing. Now, I hope that when it comes around and it doesn't happen, that you back off and you actually, uh, you know, don't get so worried and you still go and vote. The only way we are going to put up some guardrails and survive the 28 is if we can take the House and hopefully the Senate. All right, that is going to do it for today's episode of the Analytical Iowan podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time to join me today. Hope you guys have a great day, and I will be back again tomorrow with another podcast.